Good evening, this is the TTC Dungeons & Dragons News Roundup. I'm the _Twig, and I like analysing game rules. It is 11 PM BST on Friday the 12th of July. Our headline tonight: the Bard has received a significant buff. Whilst they now start with the same spell list as in 2014, or at the very least a similar one, at 10th level the Magical Secrets feature now lets them pick any spell that they learn or swap from any of the Bard, Cleric, Druid or Wizard spell lists. This means that by 11th level, just one level after they gain this feature, a Bard could know Guidance, Ray of Frost, Shield, Fireball, Spirit Guardians, Anti-Life Shell and Magic Jar, on top of the other 11 Bard spells that they already knew. Whilst this makes the class incredibly versatile, one British critic is worried that it may make the Bard too versatile, effectively making some other classes, like the Druid and the Wizard, redundant in high-level play. Furthermore, the College of Law's Magical Discoveries feature, previously known as Additional Magical Secrets, now gives the Bard 2 additional spell preparation slots with which the player can choose from any of these 4 lists, starting straight from 6th level. These can also be replaced upon level up. The Bard's 18th level Superior Inspiration feature also now gives the Bard up to 2 Bardic Inspiration uses, meaning that it does now trigger if the player rolls initiative with 1 use remaining. The College of Dance's Inspiring Movement has now been confirmed to trigger when an enemy ends its turn within 5 feet of you. Previously, this triggered when an enemy ended its turn within 5 feet of an ally. The College of Valor has also had its extra attack upgraded, so it can now use a cantrip in place of one of its attacks, in a similar fashion to the Blade Singer. We now go to the Wizard of the Coast head office in Seattle, where the _Twig has a report on the Cleric. Thanks, Twig. There's a lot of stuff to talk about in the Cleric, so let's get moving. First up, we get to talk about the first level feature, Thaumaturge. In the playtest, this gave you a free cantrip and a bonus equal to your Wiz mod to all religion checks. Well, it now gives you that bonus to Arcana as well. Turn Undead has also seen a change, because it now makes any undead who fail its saving throw frightened and incapacitated, and forces them to move away from you. This is functionally similar to the 2014 version, but a bit neater in wording, and the undead now move half as quickly. They've also made a small name change to Smite Undead. It's now called Seer Undead, probably to avoid confusion with the Paladin. Now, whilst it's not new, something which is definitely worth talking about is Divine Intervention. This gives the Cleric a once per day single action casting of any spell on the Cleric list, although you can't pick reaction spells and they have to be 5th level or lower. If you're just going to use this to raise dead, that's fine, but where it becomes a problem is action casting Hallow and maybe Prayer of Healing. Those are effectively give all enemies vulnerability with no saving throw, and give the party a short rest in the middle of combat. Furthermore, if backwards compatibility is being used, the Twilight Cleric can now use this feature to cast Learman's Tiny Hut in the middle of combat. When it becomes upgraded to Greater Divine Intervention at 20th level, there is a slight nerf when it comes to the playtest, because using this feature to cast Wish no longer protects you from the casting stress. Although they have said that Wish now has more options which do not trigger the casting stress at all. Now for the Cleric subclasses, we've got a few interesting things going on here. The Life Cleric's Preserve Life is probably back to how it worked in 2014, except it now affects constructs and undead. Most healing spells now affect these guys actually, although there are some undead stat blocks that will now have a feature which says that they take damage from healing. In the Light Cleric, the 6th level feature, Improved Warding Bond, now lets you give a bit of temp HP to an ally when you protect them, and also lets you regain all uses on a short rest. Trickery has had a couple of upgrades as well. Blessings of the Trickster now lasts until your next long rest, and the currently unnamed 6th level feature now allows you to swap places with your invoked duplicity every time you cast or move it. Then after that, the War Cleric has had 3 changes. They now have Guiding Bolt and Steel Wind Strike on their spell list. War Priest's bonus action can be used to make an unarmed strike if you want, and War God's Blessing now lets you use Channel Divinity to cast Shield of Faith or Spiritual Weapon with no concentration. The last thing that I want to quickly mention is a little change that they snuck into the Magic Initiate feat. You can no longer choose Warlock or Sorcerer spells. Personally, I think that the only really noteworthy loss there is Honor of Agathis, which is now completely locked behind a 1 level dip into Warlock. Some people will also probably complain about Eldritch Blast though, but I'm personally not convinced about how much impact that actually has. That's it from me though, so back to you in the studio, Twig. The monk has received minimal changes. Their key points have been renamed to focus points, and are now, instead of doing a small amount of damage when the saving throw against stunning strike is a success, the target has halved movement and the next attack against them gets advantage. In the Warrior of the Element subclass, any feature which would allow a player to choose a damage type also allows the choice of Thunder, and the fly and swim speeds granted by Stride of the Elements have been changed to activate whenever elemental attunement is active. There is no longer a second 10-minute timer, which is activated by using Step of the Wind while elemental attunement is already active. The Warrior of Mercy's Flurry of Healing and Harm has also been limited to wisdom times per day. Our last story for today. After the Bard gained access to the Wizard spell list, reducing their uniqueness and value, the Sorcerer has taken them on in terms of spells prepared, as they have surprisingly kept their increased number of spells from the playtest, as well as all subclasses except for Wild Magic gaining a list of automatically prepared spells. This means that Sorcerers will now have 32 spells prepared at 20th level, over twice as many as they previously had. Some of the Draconic Sorcery subclass's spell list has also been revealed, and it is now known to include Command, Dragon's Breath, Fear, Charm Monster, Legend Lore, and Summon Dragon. At 18th level, Draconic Sorcery can also now cast Summon Dragon with no spell slot, material component, or concentration required. Their Dragon Wings feature also now lets them move faster, but they likely have some limitation on their usage. The Wild Magic Sorcery subclass has a brand new Wild Magic Surge table. Whilst this still requires the player to roll a D100, there are now sub-tables which can be triggered by certain results, which will call for additional rolls. This new table is reported to have less negative results and more cool results. Some of the results which are known are setting everything on fire, which possibly replaces the 2014 Fireball effect, turning it into a potted plant for one turn, and becoming vulnerable to piercing damage. There are also a lot of summoning results, and there is one result which applies all effects that would transform the Sorcerer at the same time. Wild Magic Sorcery also has a new 18th level feature called Tamed Surge, which allows the player to choose almost any result from the Wild Magic Surge table, instead of rolling. Please remember that TTC is only covering breaking news. If you would like to know more about any of these classes, there are many other videos on this channel talking about other playtest changes. Make sure to subscribe for future news and share this video with your friends to keep them up to date. TTC is funded by Patreon sponsors. If you would like to join the discussion and gain early access to our videos, consider signing up. There are also other secret benefits, such as the fact that when SK started supporting, he also became omniscient and learned how to transform into a goose. From the TTC Dungeons & Dragons News Roundup, I'm the_Twig. Bye!